Later, Paige Hemis is showing us a DIY patriotic coat of arms. Back with Pet Talk co-host, veterinarian Dr. Courtney Campbell, who has some very, very important pet safety tips for summer. Yes. And also joining us, my favorite little, guest on the show is this little dog, Elliot. So, Dr. Courtney,
yes.
A very serious issue in the summer is pet owners leaving their pets in the car. And sometimes they think, I cracked the window, it's okay. But that's not true.
Yeah, I'm so glad you said that because, listen, cracking the window, it may not do much. And I think all of us understand that dogs and hot cars don't mix. And there's been some really good public service announcements that have been pretty illustrative of how dangerous they could be. There's usually somebody in a car, they're sweating in a t-shirt and everything like that. Just imagine if you were a dog, though, where you couldn't sweat and you were in a fur coat.
I know.
Now that can be really, really problematic. Like Elliot's fur coat here, that can make situations dangerous. Plus you add in the greenhouse effect, the car.
Yeah.
So I think people understand it's dangerous, but they're like, well, what if reality hits? What alternatives do I have? So number one alternative, just pre-plan. Just don't do it, right?
Yes.
Find a way so that you're not in a situation where your dog's in a hot car. Second situation, ask the store owner, hey, would you mind watching my dog while I go and grab something?
Yeah.
And then I think even all of us as total strangers, wouldn't you get something from the store for somebody who says, hey, listen, I don't want my dog to overheat. Would you mind grabbing that for me?
Sure, exactly. Like if you don't feel comfortable with the animal, at least you can give somebody the money to go.
Exactly. Or I've heard of people winding up all the windows, blasting the AC full blast, and then going in. Now, that's an alternative emergency, but I get a little nervous about that because what if you're in the store longer than you're supposed to? What if the air conditioner fails? So there's definitely four alternatives.
What if the dog learns to drive?
There you go. Or something takes off, right?
Exactly.
Hold the remote starter in your hand.
Let's not discuss the fact that if your keys are in the car, if the car's on, someone can steal your car and the dog.
Yes.
Yes.
Just like Orly pointed out.
Well, just hold the remote starter in your hand. I've actually seen on the internet some public service announcements saying that if you take a picture of the dog in a hot car with the temperature, you can break the window without facing charges.
Yes.
Oh, none of that has been substantiated. Call local law enforcement before you go breaking people's windows.
So talk to me about this.
Yeah, definitely.
We live in Southern California. It's
Yes.
spring. It's already really hot. This summer is going to be super hot.
Yes.
So what is too hot to exercise our dogs?
Well, first, I'm glad that Elliot lives in Southern California because if it snowed, I'm afraid we'd lose Elliot in the snow, right? So this is good that he's living in the right. But we talked about classic heat stroke. You're talking about exertional heat stroke, where you can exercise too much, right? And it could be overheating to the dog. So which days are the most dangerous? The days we all love, 80 to 85 degree weather, okay?
He wants to make sure he's on camera.
So I would say, here's a good rule of thumb. If the temperature and the humidity, if you total those together, if they're above 150, that's too hot. Okay. So let's say it's 75 degrees outside and 85% humidity. That's 160. That's too hot to exercise. Okay. Now, obviously, if it's 90 degrees and 2% humidity, well, yeah, obviously.
Okay. All right.
But that would be a good rule of thumb. Let's say it's 70 temperature and 70 humidity. That's 140. It's safer.
All right, you were talking about exercise exertion and heat exhaustion.
Yes.
I'm not sure I'm clear on which is which. I have seen some dogs when I'm hiking up Runyon Canyon, to me, look like they're having heat exhaustion.
Yes.
Are they just excessively panting because they're trying to sweat, or are they having heat exhaustion? How do you tell the difference?
What an excellent question, because sometimes it's tough to tell. But I will definitely say this. A dog who's experiencing heat stroke or heat exhaustion will be panting excessively, potentially vomiting, potentially collapsing, potentially not wanting to move. They could be having diarrhea. I mean, they're getting sick while it's happening. But here's the problem. By the time you start seeing those, it could be too late. So it's important to, when you see that panting, like you said, let's take a break here. Let's get some good hydration. Let's get some good alternatives to cool down.
Well, speaking of hydration, one of the first products you brought here could really help you out with that.
Oh, this is beautiful, and I think it's great because it's 3-in-1. You've got a nice water bottle here where you can take a drink of. You've got this here where you can pour some of that water in. Right? Let's see if Elliot's interested. Yes. He's like, no. And then, of course, you have on the bottom here, let's see, I don't tip this over, treats.
I bet he's
a bet it'll take some snacks.
I love
Yeah,
that.
let's
That's
see.
really
Pass
Let's-
some down for me.
But
so.
also, Dr.
Oh, it's
Courtney,
not those kind of treats, Doctor.
I have heard that you're also supposed to cool, if the dog is experiencing heat exhaustion, cool the body, not necessarily give the dog water.
You can absolutely give them water. The challenge is a lot of dogs don't want to drink.
I see.
And so if
That's how
they're
my dog
if
is.
they
Yeah,
don't want
my
to
dog
drink,
doesn't
then
like
you
that.
can take that same water and just lightly touch it over their head and on their neck. And then over here we actually have a fan that you can attach to their kennel. And on the bottom of the kennel we actually have a cooling mat.
Yeah, this-
So that cooling mat heals by cools them by a process called conduction, where it transfers heat. Dogs usually cool themselves by evaporation or evaporative cooling. So you're using all those two methods: evaporative cooling with the fan, and then conduction with the cooling mat. So
Right.
Such a great idea.
The water thing that you were talking about earlier, sometimes with my dog, I'll pour water over his head. He knows it's coming.
Yes.
So I have to do it more gently.
Right,
right.
So he doesn't get scared. But sunscreen, okay? I've
Yes.
never heard of sunscreen for dogs. I use it on myself,
Right.
obviously, and I love my little dog. He's my little fur baby, but I didn't know there was sunscreen
I'm
for
so
him.
glad you brought that
I
up.
didn't even
because-
know they needed it. They're full
I
of
know.
hair.
I know, right? But
Well,
these
most
dogs,
of
not every,
Yeah,
a lot of these dogs, your Bichon Frise, West Highland White Terriers, American Bulldogs are light-colored
for
breeds.
sure, the
And
Bulldogs. I
dogs
didn't
can
even
get
think of
skin
Bulldogs.
cancer from the sun, just like people can. We call it solar-induced hemangiosarcoma or solar-induced squamous cell carcinoma. So these are just to name a few cancers that dogs can get from the sun. So always use a veterinary approved sunscreen. This one here is labeled for dogs and horses, but two things in there: zinc oxide and these salicylates. They can be dangerous. So if you see a sunscreen that has zinc oxide, hold up,
away from it.
call your vet and say, hey, listen, I'd like to use a sunscreen. Is this okay for my pet? Go ahead, spray it on your fingers, right? And then touch it to the light-colored areas on them.
Like the
right?
ears, the nose.
The
Can you do it
ears,
on
the nose, the underbelly here. Don't just spray it in their face like, it's pepper spray.
Right.
Yeah.
Can you use human grade
Yeah.
sunscreen?
Excellent question. If you pick up the human grade sunscreen and you see zinc oxide or something that ends in the word salicylate, pause, because salicylate, toxic to cats, zinc oxide, toxic to dogs and cats. So you definitely want to say, this is not for me. A lot of people are out of love spraying their pets with insecticide like things with DEET in it.
Right.
DEET can be toxic to pets. So if you're trying to protect your pet from the sun, make sure there's no zinc oxide. If you're trying to protect them against insects, make sure there's no DEET in there.
Oh my goodness.
Wow.
Oof. Thank you so much,
Oh,
Dr.
thanks
Courtney.
so
You were
much.
so awesome. And
Thank
I think
Elliot.
everybody knows.
He's amazing.
You're so awesome. Hallmark knows the joys that pet bring to all of our lives every day, which is why we are so committed to ending pet homelessness through adoption. So help us find all shelter pets a home until all of the shelter pets do have a forever home and all the shelters are empty. Just like, by the way, Elliot was adopted right here on this set in 2015 by our producer, Colin, who's holding the cards right now, as you can see, because we had a pet adoption. So thank you, Colin. Thank you so much. And thank you, everybody out there. Thank you. Thank you, Elliot.
For my dog. And guys, up next, we are sitting down with the host of Upscale with Prentice Penny. Come on back.